Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast. Sean Higgs, Matt Fargo, talking some NFL Hall of Fame game. The NFL's arrived. Preseason football. We'll jump into that second, but you're here. So, listen, hit that like button, thumbs up, notification bells on so you know when we cover these preseason exhibition, whatever you want to call the NFL, early action here. You don't want to miss out on all the free pick winners. And of course, all of our top plays, premium action for NFL preseason, and everything else going on right now with sports. Because let's be honest, college right around the corner as well. But here we go, Matt. Let's gamble again. Gamblers roll down there for our best bets in the Hall of Fame game. But let's before we jump into Chargers and the Lions here, you have like two sets of thoughts. Right? You got the people who are like, you never bet preseason football. That's terrible. That it's like spring training baseball. And then you got the other side of it, where I know I kind of lie, where it's almost laid out for you, right? I mean, you can jump into, well, you don't know who's playing this and that. Well, you sort of do. You sort of do know who's playing. I know they got rid of a couple games, but it still lies in the fact that the coaches kind of say how they're attacking the game. Now, you got to be on. It might be late information. It could be earlier. It can tell you this on a Monday how the games will play out. There's joint practices and things like that. The information's out there. Sometimes doesn't mean it's going to win. I know that, you know that, but it's not a pit of hopelessness. I mean, there is a way to crack the nut. No.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I first started out, I never really thought about doing preseason. And then, once you kind of read more into it, you got to the point where coaches were telling, their pressers exactly what they were going to do, what their game plans are, what their quarterback rotations are going to be. And you brought up a good point. Like a lot of that is later on in the week. So if it's a Saturday game, betting some of these preseason games Monday, Tuesday, thinking you're going to have value, well, you might see some value, but you don't really know what the game plan is going to be at that point. The coaches tend not to say what they're going to do until they finish their joint practices if they're having them, or they get a better idea of what they need to look at for the upcoming, real game experience if they're going to finally get to see, as opposed to beating up each other on a practice field. So, yeah, that information is out there. It really you have to dig for it in some cases, but it is out there. And the coaches, as you mentioned, give the information, and the one thing they do give out most is quarterback rotations. Who's going to play? How long are the starters going to play?
Yeah.
And when you look at quarterbacks, you want to look at, obviously veterans, not necessarily veterans who played, with the team last year or for a few years. If you have a three-man quarterback room where they're all veterans going against a team, going up against maybe one veteran, two rookies, that's a huge edge. It's a huge edge in the preseason. Even though they haven't been in the system, they can read defenses. They know how to, scheme, game plans at a better rate. So you can definitely get some information if you know the quarterback situation going into those games.
You bring up a good point with the QB rotations. I just kind of popped up the depth charts. I'm all for the starters aren't going to come in, even especially now. If you get a series, I'd be shocked, right? And to me, I'm like, I'm not looking to take some huge fave or in week one. They haven't played. Like, I know they have their practices to play them, but you kind of want to be game speed sort of stuff. So I don't like that, but I like when I jump onto a depth chart list and I run down people and I'm like, okay, who's backing up who here? Who's going to get some spots? Like the Bears, you got Case Keenum, Austin Reed, and Tyson Baggett. Those guys are going to come out and chuck it. Like they're going to be looking impressed. Like so, again, that's just one kind of team there, but I love the backup situation. Who's in Detroit? We're going to talk about them in a second. With their Hendon Hooker there, and who's their other back? Kyle Allen. Who's I think started a game in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just talk about the coaching. of the preseason. So a couple of years ago, Harbaugh was on a 23-0, I think, right, of ATS.
Yep.
Pretty darn good. Well, he's gone 2-4 the last 2 years. You have coaches who want to play. You saw that there. And then you have other coaches who, do nothing. Andy Reid last year was 0-3, but sometimes they do cover the Chiefs with their backups in there. Do you auto kind of play things like that where, this coach is going to come in and we're going to go and try to win the game? Or I like a new head coach where I'm thinking, you know what, this guy's got something to prove. He wants to take that losing taste out of the franchise's mouth, whether it's preseason or not. We need some wins and some good feelings. Other guys are like, you know what, let's just get healthy. I want to get to the season healthy. We have goals to do. Do you look at anything with coaching?
Absolutely. You brought up what I was going to say is my first point is first-year head coaches. I always look at first-year head coaches in the first game or two. Typically, if you're a new coach, you're probably coming into a losing system, right? A team hasn't done much over the last year, last couple of years, and these coaches look at it like they want to not necessarily prove to themselves, but prove to the players that this can be a winning program, this can be a winning team, and they actually want to go out and win the game. And that you think like it's more about reps, it's more about scouting, who's going to make the the 54-man roster, all that stuff, which is totally true. But at the same time, some of these coaches, these newer guys, they do want to win. And even some of the veterans, you brought up Harbaugh. I think both Harbaughs now. You can go out there and find good numbers on preseason coaches and how they fared over the years. Win-loss against the spread, things like that. And some coaches do take it a little more serious. Where you brought up that they'll play one series, maybe two series at the most, but in the second preseason game, used to be the third, but now they only play three, so it's now the second one, where it's kind of like a dress rehearsal. And in some cases, the coaches will want to go all the way through halftime, make halftime adjustments, and play a series in the second half even. And you'll get that information. It'll be out there. They'll say that. The coach will be like, "This is what our game plan is going to be. We're going to play their starters for a whole half. Go to halftime, and play another series in the second half." Not every coach does that, but some do, and you can find that information for sure.
Yeah, especially listen, world of Twitter world now. It's out there. You follow the beat reporters for these guys. They're always good stuff. I remember, you're in the tri-state area guy being, Star Ledger, for Nork. I open it up. The Giants Jets would kind of be like, we're doing this today, and it would just be right there how they're gonna play out kind of games for you. We're gonna we're gonna work on this. We'll see if he gets a couple reps here. We'll see. All right, you know what that means. No, you guys not gonna play.
Right.
They're not rolling the veteran guy. 7 new head coaches. The Bears with Ben Johnson, Vrabel with the Pats, Liam Cohen with Jacksonville, Carroll with the Raiders, Pete Carroll 73. Pete Carroll wants to coach. Kellen Moore with the Saints, Aaron Glenn with the Jets, Schottenheimer with the Cowboys. We'll be more into this. This is just kind of, we got one little game here, which we'll talk about now, but just kind of little things to talk about. Playing a little seed in your head here with NFL preseason starting up. Now, Hall of Fame game in July. All right, here we go. Normally, I'm usually getting excited because it's my birthday when Hall of Fame game. Usually, like the first week of August, you get like the second, third, fourth, fifth, along those lines. And they bump it up a little this year here. Here we go, the 31st. We got the Lions and the Chargers from Canton. Let's just talk, historically, of late, we've seen these games dog-friendly, 6-4, straight-up doggies last 10, 8-2 against the spread last 10. 1.5 for Dan Campbell's group. Chargers with Harbaugh, little dog, again, new Harbaugh's, year 2 here. I'll go first here because I've been saying I'm going to take the Chargers when we were doing little free pick videos in May. I'm like, hey, Hall of Fame game's coming up. Hey, let's go Chargers. I already bet the Chargers plus 1.5 here. I look at it as it's Harbaugh. He's a guy who evaluates his college guys. He wants players playing hard. That's the way he plays. And I know Campbell's a cat where they want to run through the wall for him and all this stuff. I don't know how this Detroit team, again, this is preseason, but just as an overall whole with them, you lose coordinators. And let's be honest, man, last year's got to be a disappointment for this Lions team. The schedule set up perfectly with all the dome games and home games and how they had their road splits and wherever they played. That team should have been in a Super Bowl. Like, that was everything lined up perfectly. That was a perfect scenario. We had the Niners were down. I mean, you had rookie quarterback going in, or not rookie, but Sam Darnold, for Minnesota. You had paths all over the place. You had Tampa Bay, who people don't really respect, who you had to beat. Okay, you had the Eagles, but you were home. You had it. I think an overall letdown year. But in this game, I'm taking the Chargers. Give me the Chargers here. I think it's, again, plus 1.5 because there are ties. There are ties here. They're not. There's no overtime. Teams will go for a win. They'll kick a 67-yard field goal, nonsense like this. I will definitely take any kind of points I can get in a preseason football game, whether it's 1.5, 2. I don't care. As much as I love money lines during the regular season, preseason I want everything I can get because it could be a terrible fest. So. But go ahead.
Yeah, I hear you with that. Like one historical stat that goes back to 2015, underdogs that are +1 to +3 are 162 and 110 against the spread, which is almost 60%. So what you just said perfectly correlates to this game with that number. As far as this matchup goes, I haven't really looked too much into it. Look at the quarterback situation. I know Herbert's probably not going to play. I doubt Goff is going to play. It's very unlikely. So I think you look at the quarterback rotation. You brought up Hooker and Kyle Allen for Detroit. Couple veterans there. For the Chargers, you have Heineke, Trey Lance, and the rookie. I don't know how to say his name from
DJU.
Yeah,
he was everywhere. DJU.
So you basically have 3 guys probably fighting for 2 spots, and that's kind of what you like, because they're going to gun it and they're going to try to win this game and they're going to try to impress. Typically I would look at the under. It's kind of shifted over the last few years where the under was a moneymaker in a Hall of Fame game, but it's kind of flipped a little bit the other way now, and the markets have caught up. What's the total at in this game right now? It is really, really low. Yeah, it's so low. So I don't really see much value there anymore. But going back, only 7 of the last 37 Hall of Fame games have seen 40 points. 16 of those have seen 27 or less. So even though it's shifted a little bit more recent, the unders, the low-scoring games are still out there. There's always fluke plays that kind of screw it up sometimes. So you have to be wary of that. But yeah, looking more into it. And I don't know if it'll make a difference or not, but I guess the narrative is that, the Chargers have their big guy going to the Hall of Fame this year, Antonio Gates. Will they try to win it? Will they try to win the game for that reason? Who knows? They could. It's just another narrative to look at. But yeah, come closer to game time. I think you just want to see what the coaches are saying about, game plans and rotations and things like that.
You mentioned the totals. The last 3 games have all gone over in the Hall of Fame game. Prior to that, they were a 7-2 underrun. But this is, I see the 32.5. It reminds me of like Army Navy in these academy games. They've been under all the time. Yeah, well, they started at 46.5 and now they're at 30s. Is it too low? Again, I used to be able to jump into a lot of totals in preseason, just like going under. Especially week 1, the final week, they were just dead unders. You could bet all 15 games and say, you know what, I'm going to go minimum 10-5. Now, I don't know. We're probably going to get DJU. The guy started at Clemson. I mean, this guy was supposed to be a number 1 draft pick. Then he went out to Oregon State. He was at Florida State. How that worked out in Florida State. How good were they last year?
Florida State, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep.
But again, he's traveled around. He was a top guy to start, and here you are. You're going to get a lot of this cat. Maybe he exploits this team. And again, I like the Chargers because I just think this is a spot for them. But let's be honest, this guy's could throw 4 interceptions, right? That's the drawback when you see 31 and a half, 32 and a half, 33 and a halves, and you have guys who've never faced NFL competition. Again, I'll put that in quotes because this is, backup kind of material. A lot of guys, practice squad type players, but they're all out there hungry, looking,
Absolutely.
everybody's looking to make a play offensively or defensively. As I don't say the rules have changed, but you get rid of preseason games. I've kind of backed away from that because I feel like I don't know what's going to happen all that much when it comes to the totals. I'd rather stick to a side and think, hey, this coach, this spot, I'm riding them. You're never going to be laying crazy numbers. And that brings up a next point. Listen, folks, I like the Chargers here in this Hall of Fame game plus the 1.5. But before we get out of here, Matt, sometimes we'll see in now weeks 2 and 3 when we see more starters get in and stuff like that, or if, Lamar's going to play a half, or one of the quarterbacks come in and he's going to get significant time, or a backup who's got NFL, 27 NFL starts under his belt's going to come in and play an entire game versus a team. Sometimes you see these lines get up over that like 4.5, 5.5, 7s, and you're like, whoa, what is happening here? At least for me, anything over like a 5+, I'm on nearly, I don't say they're auto plays, but I'm looking at favorites in that spot. And I think for good reason, because you're getting an established quarterback, and you can make fun of, Jacoby Brissett, he's not really – the guy's got a bunch of starts, and now he's playing against guys who are maybe not even going to sniff a practice squad team, and a bunch of guys getting cut. You see these lines – personally, I like the big lines when I see them. I think you're in a spot where you're better than average. You're going to come through at the 53% clip to win out of these over a preseason week or a 2-week period.
Right. That makes sense too, because like I mentioned, how the value's been taken on some of the totals from the markets, and the same thing kind of goes for some spreads. Like years ago, you see every game was -3 or -2.5,
Yep.
-3, maybe 3.5. Now we're getting the information. Well, the sports books are getting the information as well, and they know, and they pay attention, and they will shade lines based on the information they're getting as well. But when you see a line, creep up, close to a touchdown, whatever like that, it means there is an advantage one way for sure. And the markets know that, we know that, and I don't have any historical information in front of me how many times we've seen total or spreads this big, but you would think based on that they would have such a big advantage that they would win comfortably. So I see your point where you see those numbers shaded. That's the side you want to go. Where old school thinking was, okay, this is a preseason game. This team's getting 6 points. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore. Not anymore.
Again, we're talking Hall of Fame game, Chargers, Lions, and just little things that myself and Matt look at with preseason football. And again, if you're not going to bet it, that's fine. I understand people don't want to bet preseason football. They want to bet, Summer League NBA. A lot of question marks. It's it is kind of tough to get into. You don't know who the players are and time-wise. But we're just going to throw out some nuggets here, what we look at in our experience over the last, me and Matt combined, we're talking about 40 or 50 years of betting here and what we look at. And it is a ever-changing kind of wheel in the NFL now. But anything else you want to throw in for maybe we skipped out on with preseason?
I think we have everything covered. Like you said, if you have any sort of hesitation, don't bet it. Don't, because anything can happen in these games. We have even if we have the right information we think we have going into the game, as far as quarterbacks, as far as systems, as far as how the stars are going to play, everything like that. A lot of these players that have no NFL experience, and they're out there to win it. They're out there to win a job, and they can mess up, anytime throughout the game. It isn't like an NFL game where the starters are in the whole time. All these veterans, all these athletes and everything. Where sure they'll make mistakes, but they know what they're doing most of the time. Where these young guys, they could screw up here and there, no doubt about it. So if there is any hesitation, don't do it.
Listen, it's preseason football in August. You still have baseball with teams competing for wild card spots to worry about. So you don't have to do that. And I think you brought up a good spot there with the we got an article, we got a coach quote, we got this and that. You still have a good line. You know what? You could have that in a regular season. You're getting 3, it goes to 1. It's still a loser.
Mm-hmm.
It's no guarantee that it's going to get there. If it goes down, and I think you're the same way, you did your work on it. You had a good number. You had, especially in preseason, coach saying X, Y, Z, and you're thinking, all right, I'm looking good here. We could still lose. It is difficult, but we the information's there. We try to get the right side of it. Again, I like the Chargers. I'm taking the Chargers. I took the Chargers. We'll see how we go. I start 1-0 and won't have to play another game. I can say I'm 100% of my preseason for 2025.
I'm gonna ride you. I'm gonna ride you with the Chargers. I like it. You talked me into it. Let's go.
Oh, that's great. So now after this, every Tuesday, Wednesday, I see you be like, well, I should be 2-0, but I took your Chargers. Now I'm 2-0.
Never.
All right, folks. We're gonna get out of here with our little preseason talk. Chargers. There you go. You get a premium play. You don't have to go to Gamblers World for my play here. I give them out. We do a lot of free picks here. Sometimes you get them. There you go. I got the Chargers in my pocket for +1.5. Who knows if the line changes by the time you watch this? It's very possible. But Chargers for me. Matt Fargo agrees, or he's gonna ride. He's gonna jump in the bus with me. He's gonna say, what? Let's go. Preseason, we'll play a little bit. These are not, huge plays here. Preseason football, folks. We're not, I think the term is generational wealth. We're not doing crazy crap like that here, right? We're not gonna. Oh, we're gonna play or prop this. No, we're not doing crazy parlays in preseason football. No, stop it. Take the Chargers. Be a winner. Your comments in the chat here, or in the comment section, I should say, for Chargers, Lions. Good to see you, Matt. Good to see everybody.
Sure.
And good luck. Go Chargers.
Good luck, everyone.
No more San Diego. Take it easy.